obviously it's good that I put up my own, crazy thoughts, and then you can actually put it into context.
Yeah, so that's why I want you to fly on with it.
And
Is it possible? Is it possible to read the letter? And I think it's a very rich letter.
It's rich, but I don't
Just
think it's
just the
necessary to
salient
read
points.
it.
They're very
Yeah,
not
there are a
the
couple of
whole, not the
there are a couple of
bio. I mean, the whole first 2-3 pages are all like, bio of Alhagie Kurang. Not that part, but the substance of the letter.
Actually, I wouldn't want to read directly from the document, but there are a few things that I actually jot down that I felt are quite necessary to put up in this discussion today. And of course, we will inject a bit of course, low and reflective thinking as per how. A second, it's like I live by the airport. It's always a lot of noise. A couple of things that I really want to focus on and look at, and among those is that we've discussed this matter, and from the last discussions explicitly, we've, came up with possibility that, of course, Alhagie Kurang could potentially, use the, whatever deceased letter that was sent to him from Amie Bensouda's lawyers, as he can also claim issues of defamation, on the basis of the context or the content of the letter, which was not really just out of the blue prophecy. But if you can connect the dots, you were able to explicitly mention that that is a very, possible, undertaking that he could take. Today, here we are. That's exactly what happened. And that brings to the point that, quite unbiased about what we think, and we only analyzing documents brought to us by the different parties that are at loggerhead. The few things I want to put up from Alhagie Kurang's document, I would look at its strengths and as well, in my own view, the weaknesses to it. But let me start with what I think quite a little details that lawyers, as in lawyers, definitely need to pay attention to.
Omar,
Sometimes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but for people that are just probably joining us and didn't probably watch the previous live, is it possible just to maybe 2 sentences to say why this letter is following the previous one? Just a 1-sentence summary.
Briefly is that, of course, we know Kurang has been saying a lot of things. And of course, Amie Bensouda and her lawyers had sent him a letter to say, stop saying this and this and that about me. Otherwise, we will go to court. And of course, they're claiming, potential defamation of 144 million. And in that letter, Amie Bensouda's lawyers went ahead to tell Kurang the things he would have been doing in the commission that they felt were quite, inappropriate, or probably issues of malpractices that were happening within the commission. So it was a letter that was very much, not just an ordinary deceased letter sent to somebody, but it was loaded with information regarding Kurang's activities and things he would have been, he would have done within the commission. So those things have, bearings in a sense that they were not the most positive things about an individual coming to light. And these letters were actually exposed to the public. And, we've discussed that while we look at the content of that letter, Melville quite at the speed of light said there are possibilities of Kurang, also using this same letter to claim issues of defamation. Of course, we have seen Kurang's lawyers also, responding to Amie Bensouda claiming defamatory, statements within the document that was sent to them. So we are here to discuss the content of this particular letter, having discussed the content of Amie Bensouda's letter earlier, last week, I suppose. So here we are looking at what Kurang's lawyers also sent to Amie Bensouda. Of course, the same issues are actually coming in. But in this case, or in this specific letter, there is one thing that I felt is very necessary and one thing that I felt in the other letter could have omitted. Now, in my own observation, I think Amie Bensouda's lawyers could have either advised her better, but of course, this is a seasoned lawyer, they could have advised themselves better. But as well, I think that was done intentionally because it has different informations that are supposed to be meant for the public. It was not explicitly for Kurang. on issues of defamation. But of course, to tell us that Kurang was not a saint and he was a person who did this and that within the commission. But of course, like we said earlier on, that would be subjected to, verification. And if this is something that, her lawyers or herself can justify that, of course, Kurang did this wrongs, then we also question what did the commission do to those things. Now, today, what I want to look at is Kurang's letter. A few things I think his lawyers did well is they did not say anything about Amie Bensouda that would actually, in a way, in my view, be derogatory about her personality and her activities within the commission. However, they made reference to, a law that does not exist or an act that does not exist. They talked about, the Janneh Commission Act. I have never heard of a Janneh Commission Act. Probably they are referring to, the
Commission of Inquiry Act.
Commission of Inquiry Act. But then in their submission, or probably in the letter they sent to Amie Bensouda's lawyers or to Amie Bensouda, they refer to this particular act as the Janneh Commission Act, which I think does not exist. In that document too, while they're trying to reference that particular act, section 6 or whatever of a law that does not exist, or probably they just, kind of, misrepresented the law. But in that aspect, what they try to put across is that Amie Bensouda had not just, a legal, presence there, but also has the legal advisory role in the commission, which I do not know how true that is, because first, the law they're trying to quote does not exist. And if it is a misrepresentation, probably that is understandable. But if they said she has an advisory role, which I do not know where they're quoting from, but if they quote that she has an advisory role, and when I looked at the commission, the Commission of Inquiry law, I did not see where explicitly councils are mentioned, but councils do not exist in every Commission of Inquiry. Like the Faraba Commission did not have a council. What do you want, Benito? So some commissions would have councils and some do not. So where there are councils, I think the document that the Minister of Justice will send to them. What do you want? Where there are councils, I think the Ministry of Justice or whoever would have given them the employment would explicitly mention. Okay, go. I don't know what you want. If you want to go. Okay, go. Sorry. What do you want? Come on, here. Get that. So where there are councils, I think their appointments or their TORs are explicitly mentioned to them. But here is Kurang's lawyers alleging that Amie Bensouda has both an advisory role to actually give legal advices to the commission. Now, this can be justifiable when you look at Amie Bensouda's discussions with Amadou Samba. Amadou Samba did not come alone to testify in this commission. Amadou Samba came with his lawyers. And among the ball of contention in the discussions with Amie Bensouda were issues regarding the freezing of assets, where they were trying to question interim orders of the commission. But in that regard, you can see that Amie Bensouda have taken a role of a legal counsel or an advisory role on legal matters to the commission, because he justifies that the commission had all the needed, probably rights to give those interim orders, and all the interim orders where, there is nothing wrong with them. Now, we had actually discussed earlier on that it was wrong for the commission to basically sell the assets. And then this is one of the orders that the commission gave to go about the selling of these assets, which Kurang explicitly mentioned in his, earlier rebuttals, that, whatsoever chapter on relating to the sales of the vehicles, gave him the mandate as, gave him the supervisory role on the sales of the assets. So my whole question initially on Kurang was, how did he get about selling? Explicitly, that is clear that the commission gave interim orders, and then Amie Bensouda versus this guy, while they were having the interaction at the commission, she explicitly mentioned that they have, all the interim orders they gave were quite legal, and they were they were, in right place. So the question now is, we understood that the commission did not do anything extra to Kurang in relation to the allegations of Amie Bensouda. Therefore, Kurang can use those wordings or those allegations against him as defamatory statements and then go to court. Now that Amie Bensouda has a legal issue that she wants to go battle with Kurang if he did not apologize and do whatever. And Kurang vehemently, through his lawyer, said he's not apologizing and he's not really accepting anything in that regard. And went on to further say, you know what? All that you've mentioned in that letter about my personality are defamatory, and I'm also asking for 200 million. So here we are, 144 million versus a 200 million, issue that could potentially get into our courts. For me, I think generally it's interesting that the two parties are getting into that. First, I think Kurang's lawyers needed to look into the details of the sections they were quoting. Second, I think Amie Bensouda's lawyers shouldn't have, in the beginning, put issues pertaining to Kurang. Maybe they did it deliberately to actually send a certain message to the public. But now that is actually backfiring, because if they had omitted that, Kurang will be left with no choice either to apologize or to go face Amie Bensouda in court. But now they have created a room for him to actually also sue them to court. So that's just my take.
Oh, yeah. Quite interesting. So do you want me to come in now?
Yeah, sure. This girl is becoming too much, so I gotta come in.
Okay. So basically, yeah, let's first put this into context. Can you guys hear me clearly? Can you hear me clearly?
Of course, yes.
So basically, let's put this into context. Now, I want to delve into the letter proper, into the substance of the letter.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's the second or third page. It reads that our client was surprised to learn that your client, which is Amie Bensouda, so our client, they're referring to Alhagie Kurang.
Yes.
Was surprised to learn that your client, they're referring to Amie Bensouda,
right,
construed his statements, comments, and criticisms regarding the Janneh Commission's conduct and the sale of former President Yahya A.J.J. Jammeh's assets, properties, and cattle as defamatory. So for me, that's a very, very interesting part.
Yeah.
Because 75% of Kurang's messages were not directed at the commission. And we established this the first time we did the analysis, where we said Amie Bensouda was not the commission and does not amount to the commission. And we even questioned why was Kurang not questioning the entirety, the function, the activities of the commission, but actually pinpointing on Amie Bensouda as the lead counsel. We also established that within the context of the commission, Amie Bensouda was not authority. You had the commissioners and you had the chairperson.
right,
So most of the comments or things that appeared or that Amie Bensouda kind of alleged to be defamatory were not against the commission, they were directed at her person.
right.
Now, when you look at this paragraph, the paragraph is saying that their client is shocked.
Yeah.
Their client is shocked that the comments, messages, and things that their client, which is Kurang, have stated has been misconstrued. I found that very interesting, because when you reading Amie Bensouda's cease and desist letter, They did not make reference to the pronouncement of Kurang against the commission. They made reference to Kurang against Amie Bensouda. So for me, this was very catchy. Now, there are to prove for defamation, for defamation to succeed.
Yeah.
For defamation to succeed, there has to be certain ingredients.
Yes.
One, there has to be a defamatory statement. So something must be said. Right?
Yeah.
That's the first ingredient. There has to be a defamatory statement. You have to have said something that the other person is alleging to be defamatory. So something must have been said.
Yeah.
The second thing is, the second ingredient is, you have to establish that what was said with malice. That's the second ingredient. The third ingredient is that whatever was said was not said to your hearing directly, because if it is just said to you, if I can insult you, I can say whatever I want to say to you, Omar, that would not meet the threshold of defamation. It has to go to the hearing of a third party.
That's right.
Okay? And then the fourth ingredient is that the remarks have to be false. So is that clear?
Yeah, I got it.
And of course, the last ingredient that I just mentioned, that the remarks have to be false, that is because speaking truth and making factual statements that can be backed by evidence and proven to be the truth is a complete defense. It's a complete defense to defamation.
Yeah.
Now, let's delve into the issue. And this is where it gets really tricky. So what I tried to do was to do a comparative analysis between Amie Bensouda's letter and Kurang's response.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what I've seen. Amie Bensouda was asking for Kurang to retract his statements, comments, or whatever that he has said. And then she was asking for a public apology. And she was asking for Kurang to desist from making any further disparaging comments. Failure of which she was going to the courts,
yeah,
and commence legal proceedings where she was going to claim damages of up to 144 million. Now, when you look at Kurang's letter, his response to the cease and desist letter, one, he asked that the comments or whatever Amie Bensouda has said be retracted.
yeah.
He wanted this apology. He wanted an apology, but he wanted an apology. It's off. It's off. You have to watch. You said you want to watch TV, so watch TV. Okay. All right. So this boy is taking much of the talk. So he's asking for a public apology, but here is where it gets interesting. He is also asking for $200 million in compensation. And I will tell you where it gets legally problematic. And I don't understand, because I'm sure if Kurang is watching or his lawyers are watching, they're going to try to defend this. They're going to try to defend this approach, this strategy. But I personally don't believe that this is a strategy that that follows a legal framework or follows a common law principle to defamation. And I'll explain. I'm sure you're getting a bit confused. I'll explain.
No, man, look, I'm not confused at all.
Oh, you followed me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason being, you see, when Amie Bensouda asked for an apology, when she asked that the comments be retracted, when she asked that Kurang should desist, what she said was, if Kurang does not follow all of this, she would go to court and she would ask for 144 million. You know why? Because it is only the courts that have the legal authority and power to assess damage.
Yeah.
Kurang cannot assess damage. His lawyers cannot assess damage. Amie Bensouda saying that she would ask the court for a damage of 144 million is because the court is the only authority that can assess the damage and quantify the damage vis-a-vis the sort of harm that has been done to the reputation of the person.
Yeah.
The sum being asked for has to correspond with the damage.
Yeah.
Now, the court, it does not mean that because Amie Bensouda is asking for 144 million, the court will grant it.
Certainly not.
She is asking for 144 million. And when you look at defamatory law or defamatory case law, you will have, Amie Bensouda will have to lead evidence in court to show how she has arrived at such a quantifiable damage of 144 million. And the courts have to buy into this. The courts have to buy into this. Now, the difference between the cease and desist letter from Amie Bensouda and the one from Kurang is asking as a compensation of 200 million, failure to which he's going to court. He has not even specified, the lawyers have not even specified or stated anywhere in that cease and desist letter what they're going to ask the court for. Amie Bensouda is saying, if you don't apologize, if you don't retract, if you don't stop, I'm going to court, I'm going to ask the court for 144 million. Kurang's lawyers are saying, I am asking you to apologize, give me 200 million, and then I'm going to go to court. But what is the legal basis? Who has tested the veracity of the allegations or the alleged defamatory statements on Kurang and has quantified it for 200 million, but in that letter, there is no evidence whatsoever to show how they have arrived at the 200 million, or what is the basis of that, or how it corresponds to the harm done. And one solid principle in defamation law is that defamation award, defamation compensation is not to enrich a person, is to cure the damage that has been done and the loss that you have suffered as a result of the defamatory statements and claims that have been made against you. But in the final analysis, it is only the courts that have the legal authority to award compensation, because the court will calculate compensation and they will ensure that compensation corresponds to the sort of harm done. So that is what I saw in the distinction of the letter. But let us flip the argument again on the side of Kurang's lawyers. It could be that Kurang's lawyers are using a strategy of asking for 200 million, which they know is not based on any authority. So, for example, what Kurang is asking for, it cannot be enforced by anything. So let's say Amie Bensouda does not give the 200 million, which we all know is never going to happen. We all know when you look at defamatory cases, nobody gives a demand of what is made before the lawsuit. So Amie Bensouda can apologize. What was asked, let's look at it again. What Amie Bensouda asked Kurang is something that Kurang can easily do: apologize, retract. But Kurang is saying apologize, retract, and then give me 200 million. So these are conditions that have to be met. So we are certain that Amie Bensouda or yourself or myself would not pay 200 million. The basis of that 200 million has not been established. And only the courts can establish that. That is why in Amie Bensouda's letter, she strategically mentioned that if you fail to do this and this and this and this, I am going to court and I'm going to ask for damages. But it does not mean in any way, shape, or form that 144 million will be granted. For example, I'll give you a classic example. I took the state of Gambia to the ECOWAS court. I asked for $500,000. This was what I claimed as damages. But when the court gave an award, they didn't give me $500,000. The court granted the award based on what the court felt was a quantifiable sum that commensurated whatever it was that I suffered. So it is only the court that can give that authority. Now, Kurang asking for 200 million on the onset for $200 million could be a strategy to have some sort of settlement. So it could be a strategy to invite conversation for a settlement. That's the only purpose it will serve. The other purpose that it would serve is probably the matter is in the public domain, and it will bring about the sensation that it caused. Because when the letter hit, I mean, everybody was looking not at the contents of the letter, but at the 200 million that surpassed the 144 million that the previous cease and desist letter was asking for. So initially, when the 144 million hit, everybody was like, wow, 144 million? Are you crazy? And then it's countered by 200 million. By 200 million. But Kurang, in that 200 million, the court would have to quantify the damages. What has Kurang lost in terms of earnings as a result of the alleged defamation that Amie Bensouda, that he is alleging from Amie Bensouda? And now let's move away from that and let's look at the legal basis of justification. So Kurang has been making utterances against Amie Bensouda for 7 years. Amie Bensouda's letter has only gotten into the public domain for like 7 days. When the courts are making assessment of damage, of harm, quantifiable harm, these are the things they look at. How far, how long, how wide has the defamatory remarks spread? And how has it affected the person concerned? But let's get into the letter, and I'll show you another interesting part that I saw. Another interesting part that I saw is that when Amie Bensouda responded or sent that letter, her lawyer sent the letter to Kurang, there was a clever way in which what Kurang is now alleging was couched in that letter. That letter, everything that they allege was under a heading. There was a subject matter heading that mentioned something like, I don't know if you have the letter, but it said something like, I'll check the letter. I want to say that something like public something. But what it was trying to establish that everything they're saying, public records. Public records. So what they were trying to do, or what they have covered, is that everything that they have said is something that is of public nature. There's a public record for that. So let's go into what she said, which Kurang would now take as defamatory. So Amie Bensouda said that a letter emanated from the chairman. This is factual. A letter emanated from the chairperson of the Janet Commission. It is alleged that you did not retire. You did not give receipts.
Did she say it was alleged? Because I would want you to read exactly what.
No. I'm not saying she said. No, I'm not saying she said. I am saying
if you use terms like alleged in this case.
No. I'm saying no. That's not what I said. I said what Kurang is alleging to amount to defamatory. That's what I said.
Can we read what Amie Bensouda really wrote in, because that would give us the exact wordings and then actually enable us to understand if that could equate to defamation or not. I'm not sure if you have the document, it would be better to.
I know you sent it to me, so I'm gonna read it. But just to clarify, I never said she said alleged. I am saying.
I said you use the word alleged, so it's better for us to.
Because Kurang, no, it has to be alleged, just like what Amie Bensouda is saying is alleged, because it has not been proven yet. Kurang is saying that what Amie Bensouda said is defamatory.
Yeah.
That is alleged. He is alleging that it's defamatory.
He is alleging.
And Amie Bensouda is also alleging that what Kurang said is defamatory. It would only be factual when it has been tested in a court of law.
No, what I'm trying to draw attention to is, you said, the letter is done in a very, smart way, but we want to understand what exactly was the exact wordings in that document.
Says the
because that will
public record. I'll read it. It says the public record, paragraph 7. On the 12th of December 2017, the commission issued an order signed by the chairman with regard to vehicles and other assets purchased by ex-president Jammeh, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah.
That is public record 1. Okay? Now, when you go to 2, it says from the 23rd June to 2018, you purported to execute the said order and conducted the said sales. Then it went further. On the 29th of June 2018, you received instructions from the commission to suspend sales as requested and received from the office of the president, that consideration should be given to deprived communities. And then 10 says, on the 27th of June 2018, you wrote to the chairman. I'm just going to summarize, right? I don't want to read everything. You wrote to the chairman.
But for the is it the 11th one? The 11th one, I want you to read exactly from.
I'm not yet 11th.
Yeah.
It says on the 28th of June 11, the commission invited you to a meeting at which our client was present. So if you look at these things, these are factual happenings.
So 11?
So 11 says on the 29th, the commission invited you to a meeting at which our client was present as counsel to the commission. At the meeting, you were queried about the manner in which you handled the sale of tractors and vehicles and dealt with funds received from the sale, including unauthorized expenditures and sales without reserve price. This was the basis of Chairman what's his name? Surahata Jane's letter.
Right.
So these are factual. Then it goes on to say that there were lapses. Your subsequent report, in fact, revealed several administrative lapses and financial irregularities on your part, including failure to bank sales proceeds, duplication payment of allowances, signature of persons on daily allowance sheets that were not present, unauthorized expenditures, sale of tractor to Jar Oil without reserve price. These were all the allegations that Kurang rebutted.
Right.
But the point I'm trying to make is everything that Amie Bensouda have said here are things that actually happened, and there are public records to support that this actually took place in the Janet Commission, and they've already headed it public records. You get my point?
Yeah, I got it.
Now, number 13 says, you proceeded to author a memorandum dated the 2nd June 2018, received by our client on the 3rd of July 2018, which was copied to the President of the Republic, the Chairman and Commissioners, Attorney General and Solicitor General, in which you made defamatory statements against our clients. This is factual. Kurang wrote that petition. That petition was copied to the President, it was copied to the Minister, it was copied to the Commissioners. It is factual. Okay? Number 14, in reaction to your memo, a client wrote to the Attorney General and Chairman of the Commission, copying the President of the Republic. These are factual happenings. It happened. And there are public records to this effect.
No.
Then number okay, the letter was copied, right? And then on the number 15 says, on the 10th of July 2018, you were relieved of your appointment as secretary to the commission. So every single thing that is under this heading, public records, are indeed public records. And everything she said in there are things that happen. Now, whether the allegation that the chairman said is true or not, on the basis of this, becomes redundant. But what she is saying as public records are indeed factual happenings. Now, if you look at all of this, and you look at everything that Kurang rebutted, it clearly states that the chairman said all of this in his letters. And Kurang responded, and Amie wrote a letter, so all of these are factual happenings. Now, these factual happenings is what Kurang now has taken to be defamatory. Now, another ingredient of defamation, which I mentioned, is that
yeah.
you there?
Yeah.
The other ingredient to succeed is for you to establish that the defamatory remarks were sent to a third party.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Were sent to a third party. Now, let me tell you. So what will happen in court, if this matter goes to court, is the determination of who released that letter that was sent to Kurang. Because remember, the letter is addressed to Kurang. And if the letter is addressed to Kurang, then it is not defamatory. Even if things said in there were defamatory, as long as it is for the attention of Kurang and Kurang alone, it is not defamatory.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, when this matter goes to court, it's not as straightforward as people are saying. Because the first thing you would have to establish is how did it get into the public domain? How was Kurang's character? How was Kurang defamed? By unsuspecting, regular, rationalized members of the public. Who leaked the letter? And remember, he who alleges must prove. So Kurang has the burden to show and demonstrate to the court through his lawyers that it was Amie Bensouda or Amie Bensouda's lawyers that leaked that letter into the public space. So that would have to be tested first. Because Amie Bensouda would claim that this is a privileged letter that my lawyers wrote to Kurang. I'm sure it wasn't sent by email. I'm sure it was hand-delivered. Now, did Kurang give that letter to somebody close and they expose that letter? Or did Amie Bensouda deliberately expose the letter? Did her lawyers expose the letter? Did Kurang bring that letter into the public light, knowing fully well that this matter is a matter of public interest? So this has to be established. Now let us reverse that. Let us look at Kurang. Remember what happened in the letter, in the rebuttal of Kurang. Are you there, Omar?
Yeah, I'm there.
In the
letter
of Kurang, Kurang has already admitted that the statements that Amie Bensouda referred to, he made them. And that is what I found problematic in the way the lawyers drafted that letter. Because they said they don't understand why their client is misconstruing what Kurang said to be defamatory against her. They did not say Kurang never said any defamatory remarks. What they are saying now is that Kurang made these statements, but they were not attributable to Amie Bensouda. I don't know if you get that.
I'm getting you. Just get on.
No, I'm establishing a premise.
Yeah, I'm getting your part of it. I would also have my
No, that's fine. Yeah, I'm just doing a legal analysis. I have no bone in this fight, like I said, like I always say. Okay? So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking to viewers. People are listening. They're not doubters. They know exactly what's going on.
Right.
So, for me, I found that problematic because I would have sent that letter. I would have sent that letter, but I would not have made I would not have accepted that, yes, indeed, the pronouncements of Kurang were directed at the commission. So, for example, let me give you a classic example. Now, when Kurang said that, Korosi says death, people should go and ask Amie Bensouda. What has that got to do with the commission? It had absolutely nothing to do with the commission. This was squarely something that was directed at Amie Bensouda. Can Kurang successfully, in a court of law, plead successfully that that statement was not defamatory and it was directed to the commission? Now, let me give you another issue that is problematic with that bit. The Koro Sise case was a criminal case and it was public. The first thing that the court will test on the veracity of that allegation is, why didn't you come forward with such an information if you believe that Amie Bensouda should be questioned with regards to Koro Sise's death? So you see how that becomes problematic. Now, let's flip it on the other side. Let's flip it on the other side. Now, after all of that being said, you and I have said that the only issue we have with Kurang is why he was particularly happy on Bensouda and not the commissioners, not the chair of the commission. Now, Kurang would have to go to court and Kurang would have to draw a nexus between attributing his comments to the commission, not referencing the commission, not referencing any other commissioner, not referencing the chairman, but particularly directing those comments in the name of public interest to Amie Bensouda and not to any other member of the commission. Okay?
Right.
Now, the other part is we are at a point where the statements and the other ingredient, I wanna say this and then I'll leave you to come in. The other ingredient which I established is that everything, the defense of defamation is that the statements have to be factual and not false. Now, what did Amie Bensouda say in her letter that Kurang has now alleged to be defamatory? That is not factual. Number one, did the chairman query Kurang? Yes, he did. Was Kurang called to a meeting? Yes, he did. Inclusive of the query against Kurang, was it one, he didn't retire, receipts, duplication of payments, not banking on time, not selling at reserve price? How do we establish this? The response of Kurang to Chairman Surahate Jani, where all of these issues, Kurang won. He said the reason why he did not make the payment was because some were checks. Some people claimed that they were going to come back another time. These are factual narrations. Was the sale done without a reserve price? Kurang agreed and said yes, because he did say that, in fact, what he sold the tractors for, or the alleged tractor with jar oil, was over $1 million something. So it happened. Whether it is factual or not, what Amie Bensouda has alleged in her letter are real happenings that are on public record. So in another shot, if you look at it in another way, even if these things were going to be defamatory, even if the intent of Amie Bensouda was malice, even if the intent was to convince the suspecting members of public to have two minds against Kurang, her lawyers have cleverly shrouded it in what is already public record. I cannot insult you, Omar, and you cannot allege defamatory remarks against me if I say you have a PhD. That is public record. So for me, and it's going to be a very interesting case, because I think now we can all agree that this matter will get to the courts. But again, if you look at Amie Bensouda's letter, she has already told you and I, the public already know that this is what she's going to ask the courts for. With regards to Kurang, we don't know what he's going to ask the courts for. He has asked before legal proceedings. And he is saying, if you don't, I'm going to go to court. So for me, I know as a lawyer, I'm sure his lawyers would give him a good counter argument, but I see this as fundamentally flawed. And like we said, you see the way they acted with the Janet Commission by emotions. I feel that is the same way they acted in that letter. Because, and I will tell you this separately outside this thing, that letter could have been drafted in a way and manner that would have hit into the heart of the issue, but without accepting that, yes, because what they have done, you see, the thing is two parts. Amie Bensouda is saying you have been defaming me by making these comments. And now all of a sudden, this letter has already accepted the comments and says, yes, I made the comments, but the comments are not directed at you. They're directed at the commission. Now the courts are going to look at the veracity of that. Was it directed at the commission or was it directed at Amie Bensouda? Now, how would they establish this? Did Kurang ever attack Surahata Jane? Did he ever question the integrity of Surahata? Is it there? If there, how consistent has it been? Or was it on Amie Bensouda? So that is something that the courts would determine. But this is how I have seen the letter so far. I'll allow you to come in, and then I'll give my take. Again.
All right, thank you very much.
And let me
I think that's
qualify. This is just my opinion. I might be as stupid as... Look,
course.
Omar, when I talk to you, I'm not talking to you, Omar. I'm talking to your audience. I just speak to you because it's you I'm speaking to.
Right.
But I'm just saying, this is just my opinion. I may be wrong. I may be absolutely... I might miss the plot altogether. But one thing is certain that I know is authority. It's only the courts that can quantify damage. It's only the courts that can award compensation. And it's only the courts that can test and ensure that the award or the damage corresponds with the harm done.
Good. So where I will pick it from is like, in as much as we're looking at this specific documents, they went beyond just revealing, issues pertaining to this too. For me, my focus has always been, the generality of the commission and things that we do not know that are coming out through these exchanges from the different parties who were involved in the commission altogether. Now, what I was able to establish from both sides is that there were issues with Kurang in relation to funds and also appropriations here and there. But as well, it is also clear to me that to some people who felt that Amie Bensouda was only there to actually guide the commission as in questioning witnesses here and there. It's explicitly clear from some of her interactions with some people who appeared before the commission that it was not only asking them about, issues relating to, Jammeh's assets, but actually qualified that all the, orders or the interim orders the commission gave were actually, the right orders, which we have established that they were not right. So therefore, individually and collectively, they all have, a stake to answer that to the Gambians. Now, coming to the specificities of Kurang's document, I just want to read, where he actually talked about Amie Bensouda and where he felt that's been, that has portrayed him as, that he qualified as defamatory. Now, they did not use, what I understood smartly, they did not use the exact words of Amie Bensouda. They used their own terminologies or their own understanding. How you understand it and how I understand it could be completely different. So that onus will depend on the person who wrote the letter to qualify that this is not what I said and this is exactly how I said it. And in that case, of course, Amie Bensouda would stand and defend that this is not what I said, this is how I said it. Kurang is saying that Amie Bensouda is alleging that, he's a liar engaging in shameless and unlawful acts, which I did not see written in Amie Bensouda's document. Never. Of course, that is somebody's interpretation. Again, he said, you considered me a person who misappropriated funds from the sales of tractors and other assets during my tenure as Secretary General or Secretary to the Commission. Now, partly, misappropriation or whatever might be there, but in the language or the diction that was used is not exactly what Kurang is using in this case. Now, that in Amie Bensouda's document, he's seen as an individual behaving in a manner unbecoming of a cultured and a reasonable person. Probably that is not what I read from Amie Bensouda's document. But of course, again, it is saying that, as an incompetent opportunist who exploits others. I did not see that explicitly written in that language. That
I've not seen anything everything you've said so far. I did not see it in that letter.
Yes. And then the last one is like, you considered me a fraudster who deceives, manipulates, and discards people. I have not seen
She never
any
said
of those.
no, never.
I have not seen any of those. But what I think also makes sense to me, probably that is not how it is saying in the legal context, like you mentioned. It has to be proven that what you said about somebody is not true, and of course, and it constitutes defamation here and there. But I also know from intent, and then you cannot basically judge intent. You can judge what is before you and the documents you have before you. But I also did not see anything wrong in my own understanding in Kurang's document, in a sense that they are trying to say that, okay, give me this, give me that, and give me 200 million. I don't think you definitely need to tell somebody, if you don't give me this, I'm going to take you to court and I'm going to ask for this. You can even say, I'm going to ask you for 200 million. And by the time you want to go to court, you can say, you know what, I'm increasing it to 400 million. Is that possible or not?
It's possible.
Very good. So in that case, what I see this to be, because it is not yet before the court of law, it's just people trying to do the ping pong and then, of course, allowing the public to discuss this matter. But whereas they intend to go to court, of course, the documents will be written in the way the court requires them. But in this case, you realize that Kurang's lawyers are not even telling what they are going to do in court.
But you're not justifying. You see, you need to understand something. A demand letter is a pre-action protocol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even though you were saying that, okay, it's just a letter, it's probably we have all, you and I share that same sentiment that it's just, this is for the public, it's for the gallery. You understand? But when you look at the intent, you see, if this matter goes to court, then the cease and desist letter and the rebuttal of Kurang would be before the courts. So right now, it's got no legal authority or legal weight. None, zero.
Mm-hmm.
But once the proceedings commence, it will be before the court.
Yeah.
Now, let's analyze this as if you were adjudicating. You've done wrong, and I'm saying, apologize to me. Say you're sorry. Stop what you're doing. If you do this, I go my way, you go your way. Vis-a-vis a person that says, stop what you're doing, you've wronged me, don't do it again, but give me 200 million. You see, when these correspondents go to court, that is when the court will look at the evidence, because the reason for a pre-action protocol is to circumvent, is to show the court that you had an intention not to waste the court's time, to sort this matter out of court. That is what is a pre-action protocol. So for example, in England, let's say, I want to give a classic example. Let's say you have, okay, let's say you have.
Give me a second. DJ, come on here.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to wait for Omar. So. You okay? Huh?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what the reason for every process, there's a rationale behind it. So you need to ask yourself, Omar, why should there be a pre-action protocol? Why couldn't Amie Bensouda have just gone to court? Why couldn't have Kurang just gone to court? The reason for the pre-action protocol is to establish to the court that your going to court is as a last resort. That you try to sort this matter out without wasting the court's time. But when you look at these two letters, when it would eventually get to court and to look at the weight of them, you would realize that Amie Bensouda had the intention to say, okay, just say sorry, I'm done, and I'm done, I'm gone. But Kurang is saying, say sorry and give me 200 million. We both agree that it's not reasonable.
But
there's no but to it. That is what the court will look at.
Of course, I agree that that is not reasonable. But that is not the matter before the court yet.
No. I never said that's not what I said. I never said.
When I say something, I'm not insinuating that you said it. I'm trying to finish my point. So let me finish my point first.
Okay, so I didn't say that.
What I'm trying to say, Adija.
Just one. You can't take another one. You've been eating sweets all day. Just that one, okay? All right, good.
Oh, man. What do you want? You want to go down or what? What? Okay, I'm gonna let you go. So what I was trying to say, oh my goodness. What is it that you want?
Oh. Are you there?
Yeah, come back here. You can't go down. So what I was trying to say is that all of these things have a bit of sensationalism in them.
Yeah.
First, it is not meant for the two persons that are actually at loggerhead. It has injected, a public opinion into it because of the nature in which the documents are written. The first one, of course, told us things that happened in the commission that was not known to some of us. Probably they're public information, but it was not out in the public. Most of us just knew them newly through Amie Bensouda's documents. Now, of course, if she goes to court, she could equally say that this and this and this happened in the commission. They might not. I don't know. I'm not a judge. They might not equate to defamation. But here is Kurang, because I don't know what I read through the specifics that Amie Bensouda's lawyers mentioned that they consider to be defamatory. And most of what Kurang says, there are a few that she mentions Amie Bensouda explicitly, but with questions. So those questions insinuate that, are you trying to say that this is what I have done or this is what I am part of? But I did not also see him directly said you took this or you did that or you did that. But of course, he insinuates. So those insinuations, I do not know if they equate to defamation. For instance, I said, oh, Melville, that theft that happened at that particular place, maybe you can explain to us. So in that regard, maybe I'm not alleging directly, Melville, you stole that, but I'm putting in the minds of the people that you are a potential suspect.
But that is what defamation is.
Right?
That is what defamation is.
So defamation.
Read Kurang's letter. clouding the judgment of ordinary people, like you just said. We didn't know.
Also,
we
in Amie
didn't know.
Bensouda's document, I might be tempted to say Kurang was stealing stuff from the commission.
But these are, but you see, okay. I agree.
In that case, it might have happened in the commission that they queried Kurang and realized that no, what we were looking for, he did not do it. But in this case, if you mention it to the public, it might appear to the public that, are you trying to tell us that this guy was there doing all this fraudulent acts?
No, but that would be your interpretation, because they already qualified it. So, for example, but that's what I'm saying.
With some of the things Kurang was also saying will be subjected to interpretation.
No. You see, okay, me, I'm not holding brief for any of these people. I don't want to do that. I don't do that. I'm not holding brief for any of them. Me, I'm just analyzing squarely the facts that are before us, the letter, looking at the law, looking at what we think that might be interesting. So let me explain. Now, the distinction I see, what Amie Bensouda said in her letter is reiterating what is already there. That in Kurang's response letter that he published, it established that, yes, I answer to all of this.
So, what to be exact did Kurang mention that was so defamatory to Amie Bensouda in her document? Because most of the things I saw were like Kurang referring to her in a third-party name or not directly talking about her. In an instant, of course, directly mentioning her name with question marks about certain things. So, what to be exact if we do comparisons between what Amie Bensouda mentions explicitly about Kurang and what Kurang mentioned in his endless Facebook post about Amie Bensouda?
Okay, now, Amie Bensouda, okay, as far as I'm concerned, when I read that letter, Amie Bensouda did not mention anything about Kurang. What Amie Bensouda said was he's putting there what was public records in the Janneh Commission. You see, I don't know if you've seen the distinction.
Yeah.
She has not said anything. What the things that she has said in the first person is that you have defamed me.
Yeah.
Okay? This is what I've seen, right? Now, what I'm saying is, what I felt that Kurang's lawyers would have done was to solidly hide behind the public interest defense. That everything I've said, everything I've stated was not personally to defame, but it was me exercising my free speech on what is public interest. But again, the only problem I see, how would you qualify that with that statement on Korosi's death?
No, but because I read that a little bit differently, and I don't have it on top of my head. I think Kurang did put two things together. One about oil or whatever. I don't know what kind of thing that was.
No, what he said was the post I saw was that I think people were linking that Koro's disagreement with the junta at the time was because of that particular deal.
Right.
And he is saying, no, it's not this. You people should ask Amie Bensouda regarding this scandal or transaction. So for me, that's my only, that is like, I mean, everything else, I think you can really fly with it. But for me, that is my worry.
Yeah, even with that one, it depends on if we get it and the exact language used there. But when I read it, I understood it a little bit differently. But of course, it put in my mind that, are you trying to insinuate that this person really knows something about this person's death, which basically is what would click in the mind. But as well, everything else that Amie also mentioned gave me that kind of a feeling that, are you trying to say Kurang did this and that? But the difference is that whatever Amie said was something that would have happened within the commission. And of course, whatever Kurang would have said are mostly in, rhetorical and, questions and things that actually speak to the mind that there are possibilities of this and that. But for me, what is important is these two can go to court, and of course, judges and lawyers can determine what the merits and the demerits are. But what is clear to me in its entirety about the commission is that Amie played an advisory role in the commission beyond just asking questions.
Yeah, but that's always been the case.
Right?
But that's
Exactly.
always been the case.
No, there were people who were saying, no, she was not there as the legal advisor.
She was the lead counsel. She even said it. She even said it herself.
So that means that if the commission, she was serving as lead counsel and as well, legal advisor to the commission, for that commission to go about selling assets when they do not have the mandate to, that is my problem. So my problems are basically not, specific to this particular, fought and backs with the two. But I felt that, Kurang, where I asked him about, why he went about selling, I understand that that was something given to him by the commission. Now, with regards to Amie Bensouda, I also realized that. But
again, I found that answer problematic because Kurang's answer was to you. Kurang's answer to you was go and ask Amie Bensouda. But that order was not from Amie Bensouda. That order was from the chairperson, as established now.
Hey, what do you want?
Anyways, let me get to this other part. You see the deal is we were basically analyzing these letters for what they were. Okay, like I said, they're just opinions. I might be totally Jaden, keep quiet. I'm talking. I might be totally wrong, and you might be totally right. You might be spot on. I might have just missed the plot altogether.
No. But you made very solid points, and that exactly is what is going to happen.
But the point I wanted to make is that this matter between Alhagie Kurang and Amie Bensouda, I read a lot. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, let's go. Let this matter go to court so we can find the truth about the Janneh Commission."
So already a lot of truth about the Janneh Commission are coming out from the letters they're sending to each other.
Yeah, but then this matter, when it gets to court, will not determine. So the truth about the Janneh Commission is not about the composition of the commission. It's not about what the commission did on a day-to-day, on a day-to-day basis administratively.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you look at everything that is going on, the question that is being asked, Omar, is the disposal of Jammeh's assets.
Right.
That is the answer that Gambians want.
Exactly. And that's
everything else. Everything else is just on the freeway.
That is why, like, the thing.
What you and I want to know, what the public want to know, is how were these assets disposed of? What was generated? To who bought what? How was it sold? And where are the proceeds?
Right.
That is the crux of the matter.
Right.
Everything else is beside the point. The only thing is, it's I don't know if it's a coincidence or it's just something that happens to be, because this kind of back and forth between Amie Bensouda and Kurang came at a time where, so for example, I feel that Gambians are missing out. So rather than us concentrating on the ball, on the subject matter, this back and forth, this legal threat or pending legal matter has actually taken the attention of Gambians, and it has diversified our attention.
But as well, I hold the view that this ping pong that is going on is also, informing Gambians of some of the things that had happened in the commission. Among them is that, issues of the sales and how they went about selling some of those items, and then how they actually get to, get orders that they do not have mandate to do so, and, why the commission did some of the things they did, but also it also revealed to us that there was intense animosity within the commission. And initially we thought it was just the commissioners and Kurang, but recently we've also realized that on the whole, Kurang had petitioned the lead counsel. So,
I knew that since, because that was the reason. The petition was what necessitated Amie Bensouda's response to say that it's either Kurang goes or I go.
So that we did not talk about earlier. We were looking at Kurang's rebuttals, which we felt was specific to the commissioners. But knowing that Kurang had This one is enjoying this song, right? Knowing that initially that Kurang had actually, sent a petition against Amie Bensouda, we can basically tell where the animosity is. So that means these two people have had their loggerheads while they were working together at the commission. There was bad blood.
But you know what we
between
have not established, and what I haven't been able to establish?
Right.
What were the basis of that petition? How did it stem from? Like, where did it stem from? How did it start?
Conflict.
Because when I saw the issues that were raised in the petition, because I think Amie Bensouda kind of mentioned it in her cease and desist letter to her lawyer.
Conflict of interest?
No, it wasn't only conflict of interest. Conflict of interest was one.
Yeah.
There was selective questioning of witnesses. I found that very problematic, because that the threshold to establish selective questioning is very difficult to prove. How can you tell what I should have asked? I'm the lead counsel. My questions determine how I arrive at a particular point. How can you really show and demonstrate that my questions were selective? That is such a subjective area. But another issue that he raised was the lead counsel showing interest in wanting to purchase tractors. So with that, I have heard Kurang say that she told Amie Bensouda that, it's an open bidding, you can come and bid. But there's something missing. Something must have necessitated that petition.
No, but among the things mentioned, when he mentioned conflict of interest, if you listen to Amadou Samba's testimony, that is where he talked about Amie Bensouda being the legal practitioner who actually facilitated some of those sales. That was the period. Around that period was when Kurang actually wrote this particular, petition. But equally, some of the things that would come to light would not uncover everything that is underground. Because sometimes people have their animosities underground that all of it does not surface. But what surfaces on the public domain is basically that you felt this person has conflict of interest on the basis that, she had participated in some of the transfers of the Jammeh assets, or probably, assets linked to Jammeh. That might have some element of truth, because this guy have kind of testified at the commission and said you facilitated this and that. But again, you realize that Kurang said you wanted to purchase this and that, and then we had issues around that. So that could also be something that Kurang would think these are the reasons why they are trying to question me or bring queries over me with regards to issues as little as $200. So there are things that are mentioned, and there are things
that is what I find problematic. Why was the anger not directed at Surahata? But why was it directed at the lead counsel with regards to that specific allegation?
The anger is directed. You see, Kurang has responded to almost everyone.
No. I'm just asking. I'm asking you a question. I want to know, to be honest. Genuinely.
But that's what I'm telling you. Kurang's rebuttal.
No, I'm not talking about his rebuttal. I'm saying.
You mean his Facebook postings?
No. I'm saying, you know the letter that the chair wrote, and Kurang wrote a very substantive rebuttal.
Right.
But why was the anger on those things directed at Amie Bensouda, but not Surahata, the chairman that wrote the letter?
Well, sometimes you work in an environment where your personal problem with another can influence some actions taken against you by others. But of course, we cannot assume, because we were not there. But evidently, what we know is that there is animosity between Kurang and Amie Bensouda. That would have had trickle effects on different parties within the commission. We do not know. So on that aspect, honestly, I cannot assume or probably think.
It's just something that came to my mind. It's just something interesting that I'd like to know.
What is clear to us is that there was animosity between these two. And of course, not only the two, but also the commissioners have queried Kurang, and he had put up a very good rebuttal. Kurang, in my view, might be thinking that all of those things are induced or probably catalyzed by the animosity with the lead counsel. Probably not the fact. Those are just probably my thoughts, might not be necessarily the facts. But what is clear is that Kurang probably does not hold a lot of issues against the others as compared to the lead counsel. So there is something that both of them are not telling us that probably exists on the ground beyond just what is visible to all of us. But what is evidently clear to Gambians, and what Gambians are interested in, is that Kurang and Amie, or the commission entirely, had done something they were supposed not to do, which is not within their mandate. That is, they went about selling Jammeh's assets, which they do not have the mandate to do. They actually established, they probably put up interim orders that they do not even have the mandate to give. They might have the mandate to probably give orders here and there, but they do not have the mandate to go about selling, Jammeh's assets. And it was the commission that actually gave Kurang the powers to go about selling. So, of course, the commission has the right whatsoever to ask Kurang how you're going about selling some of these things. And if they feel something was wrong, they could call Kurang and then, of course, query him and question him about things. But, of course, if Amie Bensouda have those things re-mentioned in her document, it might just be for the sake of re-mentioning, but you and I know they are not just there for the sake of re-mentioning. They are there to establish something, and, of course, just like Kurang keep insinuating things about Amie Bensouda, this particular document also intends to insinuate something about Kurang. But of course, when they go to court, the court is there to determine all of that. But what is evident to Gambians is that the commission in its entirety had bad blood. People were fighting each other. And of course, they were executing orders that they supposed not to. And they were giving orders that probably they do not have mandate to, which equates to, probably, I don't know how to call it, but that was quite against the law. But all of these things, we have a justice minister who is supposed to be, the principal, legal advisor to the president, and probably by extension look at the affairs of the commission and, of course, advise the president, failed entirely in his responsibility. And I'm very glad that he did not win the position at the ICJ. For me, Kurang and Amie, one thing I like about the two is that they are revealing to us what was happening in the commission and the animosities that were happening within the commission and the bad bloods that were happening in the commission and some of the activities the commission was engaged in that were contrary to what they were assigned to do. That's the good thing about it. But equally, I do not fault, Kurang a lot, but now I'm trying to look at the practice of law in our country. Amie Bensouda's lawyers, of course, they did a great job in a way, but if they had avoided mentioning some of those things to Kurang, that was perfect. But of course, Kurang's lawyers are actually making, references to laws that do not exist. In my own view, if you give me a document like that, I would say, what kind of a lawyer is that? You're talking about Janneh Commission Act and putting, Section 6. Where is Janneh Commission Act?
Was there an act? I was confused. Maybe there was an act,
There is nothing like. There is nothing like. I don't want to say the lawyers did not do a good job, but they could have done a better job, in my view. Even though I'm not a lawyer, you don't make reference to laws that do not exist. That in itself already exposes, a limitation, in my view. Again, you went on to say, whatever Kurang was saying was about the commission. I'm not saying they're admitting in my case, but I think they're trying to say that whatever Kurang was saying was about the commission. But some of the things that Kurang had mentioned were nothing that had to do with the commission. For instance, asking the woman became, the biggest real estate developer in the country. That has nothing to do with anything that has to do with the commission. It's about somebody, either all of a sudden they became big business persons. How? It was not linked to the commission.
So this is what I said. So now you're understanding why I said initially.
I understood probably everything you had said. I'm just trying to give you my context of it. I understand that all of these things would play out if they go to the court of law. But the most important thing for the ordinary Gambian is that it's important that these documents keep flowing. Because then they are informing us of things that were happening in the commission. Because right now, the commissioners are not speaking. And of course, they can choose not to speak forever, right? Like you try to, educate us the other time. But then the good thing would be, Kurang and Amie are telling us about things that happen in the commission. So it's important that we have a clear, understanding of.
But again, the misconception is that. Because when the matter goes to court, they're not going to say anything about what transpired in the commission. When the matter goes to court, what is going to be tested are the pronouncements of Kurang that amounts to defamation and the alleged pronouncement of Amie Bensouda that amounts to defamation.
But
that is what will be tested
in that case, it's a matter between Kurang and Amie Bensouda.
Absolutely.
Our interest is, what exactly are those people saying that bears public interest to the common Gambian?
But the thing is, we've already established that it's not only, you see, that's why I've said before. I mean, let truth be told, you understand? It's not only the Janneh Commission, that really meddled into the affairs of the asset disposal of the former president.
But you know that if Amie Bensouda did not explicitly mention the office of the president in her letter, we would still be thinking.
We wouldn't know.
Exactly. That's why I told you what these people are saying is informing Gambians of things that had happened. Because maybe they would go to that parliamentary select committee to look into these affairs. They will never mention that the office of the president had written to, the commission about, selling things to whatever.
The National Assembly Select Committee does not have the legal standing to look into the activities of the commission, except they can.
Probably they are only going to look at the sales.
They're going to look at what they have a mandate to do is to look at the implementation of the recommendations of the Janet Commission.
First, I know some things are already established. Of course, that whatever.
Just go on, Omar. I need to just sort something out. 1 second. Just go on, yeah? Okay. Give me 5 minutes.
So what is already established is that the commission did not have the mandate to go about selling. So that the parliamentary committee does not need to establish anymore. We already know that they do not have the mandate to do so. But the ping pong between Kurang and Amie Bensouda is also educating Gambians of things that we wouldn't have known. That all of these people working in one commission were involved in things that were quite not right. And then we cannot excuse, like many of you try to do, oh, Amie Bensouda was only the lead counsel, she was only there to guide proceedings. No. She served as a legal advisor, even though if it is not in her appointment, but she did so in the commission. And then if you want to prove that, go and listen to Amie Bensouda versus Amadou Samba, where Amadou Samba's lawyers were questioning the commission about freezing some of his assets. Explicitly, she mentioned that whatever interim order the commission gave, it has the right to do so. What do you want, Khadija? My God. More? Okay. I would. Whatever that, Amadou Samba was asking through his lawyers, the commission has... What are you doing like that? You gotta wait. So what do you want me to do? Okay, go ahead. Where you want to go?
I'm back.
Yeah, this one is already disturbing me here.
I'm back. Yeah. So basically, that's what it is. The commission did not have the mandate to sell. But again, what has not been established is what was the rationale, to sell before establishing ownership, before establishing where those funds came from. Why was there a rush to sell?
I think
and again, if you flip the coin, if you look at it in another way, okay, one, I don't believe the commission did not have a mandate to sell. One, the executive should not have written that letter to even ask them to stop, because that means they were interfering in the activities of the commission, even though the activity that the commission was engaged in was illegal per se.
Yeah.
Now, thirdly, when Kurang had an order, there was an interim order to sell, and Kurang also had an instruction to stop. Now, the authority for Kurang to sell came from that instruction via the order.
Yeah.
And now Kurang had the same instruction to stop.
But from an order above the commission.
Well, the instruction came from the commission. The commission established that they were given instruction, but the instruction came from the commission.
Yeah, the instruction for Kurang to sell came from the commission and from some of the documents the commission had developed.
And the order to stop selling came from the commission. Now,
but the commission justified that it is because the office of the president had told them to consider certain kind of communities.
So that's where I'm coming to. So not only is that also problematic, because even where the commission believed that they had the mandate to sell, the commission in itself, in its action, accepted executive interference in their activities. Because when it was not for Kurang Kurang was right to say that there shouldn't be an executive interference, but this should have come from the commissioners.
You know, Kurang is right in a lot of ways, except that.
But again, you can look at it in another way. You can look at it in another way. What was the interest of Kurang to sell? Because the way Kurang, I mean, regardless if Kurang sold for 1 billion or $100, there shouldn't have been any sale. That is already established.
Probably there might not be any interest in it per se. For instance, if
I'm not saying. I'm just asking questions back and forth.
I'm trying to understand it from this point. For instance, if the commissions gave Kurang the mandate to say through its interim orders, the secretary, you know, would basically, you know, supervise the sales. So that means through the commission's orders, they actually gave him that powers to go about selling. All of a sudden, you know, the commission asked him to stop, but they did not ask him to stop because there were things that were wrong, but because of an order that came from, or probably, you know, a letter that came from office of the president. Evidently, that is, you know, executive interference. So Kurang, as the secretary to the commission, could basically bring to the attention of the commission that we shouldn't, in a way, accept executive interference. That might not equate that maybe he have a vested interest in going about selling, but of course, to tell that we are accepting something that is not normal, that should mean we shouldn't normalize here, accepting the executive to dictate to us what we need to do. Even though we all know that what they were doing was illegal, but to them it was legal, and they thought they were in their legal powers to do so. But then even if they were in their legal powers to do so, why does the commission feel the need that they need to accept executive interference? So in doing so, Kurang might feel that this is wrong and we shouldn't accept executive interference without having any other motive towards it, but just to say clearly this is wrong to do. Now, one thing I like about Kurang is that he has said a lot about the commission and the things that were not going right. And then, of course, vehemently, he could have chosen to pick his salary and then shut up and go about his business and do all his sales or whatever. But he realized that in a way or another, there are things that were, and he was challenging the status quo. And he was doing so factually. Because if you look at his rebuttal to the commissioners, bro, I love that document.
I love that document, right? And that's why I did the write-up I did. I love that document.
He could have just come and say, you know, this and this and this is what happened, just to keep his job and keep going on, and then he doesn't care. But then he put it to them that some of the things you people are doing yourself, can you actually justify it to Gambians?
You see, let me explain. I'm probably, I need to say this for the record. I absolutely, okay, now, we have established that the commission did not have a right to sell, okay? But we also understand that Kurang had an order to sell.
Yes.
But if we want to look at precedents, TRRC and all of the stuff, obeying illegal orders does not absolve you. That is the principle that has been laid out in Gambia.
This is a written, this is a whole written, you know, how do you call it? How do you people actually put in your legal terms? Interim order.
Yeah.
How could the commission even go to a point of writing an interim order that they did not have the mandate to? So here, this is where I want to actually hold the commissioners and the lead counsel who have, you know, this law expertise. How could the commission get to that level?
Well, they could subject it to interpretation and say they thought they had the orders, they had the power.
Exactly.
To sell. That's what they're going to rely on.
Who is not a lawyer. Let's even say that he cannot be excused. But in this case, if you tell me things about the law, and then you tell me that they have the powers to actually, you know, do these interim orders, and the commission did so, believing that it has the mandate to do so on issues of interpretation, and all of a sudden, others claim that they do not have the right to do so, but that if they put in that document explicitly, okay, Kurang, you would be overseeing this and this and that, he might also think that, okay, we are within our, legal mandate to do so. For me, my whole point is there were lawyers within this commission who ought to know better. Like, for instance, you and I talking about issues of the law. Honestly, you don't expect me to know it equally as you know, probably in the aspects of the law. You understand?
No,
so I
even agree.
Even if somebody is going to blame you and I on matters of the law, you will take probably 65% of it, or probably
I even agree. I even agree to a large extent that the issues that Kurang raised were very viable issues, regardless of how you see it. I mean, Amie Bensouda can make the argument that, okay, I will recuse myself from matters that I feel I am conflicted, but who determines the conflict? She does.
Right.
Okay? She determines the conflict. Two, how would you adequately, even though, stop it, Jaden. Can you stop it, or I'll let you go sit over there and you're not going to sit with me anymore. All right? Is that okay? All right, good. So basically, what was I saying? So who determines that? And you see that interaction from lawyer Mary Samba and the lead counsel. A lot happened in there. A whole lot. You see, even when the lead counsel said that, okay, this and this and this and this and this and this, but Surahata, the chair of the commission, he had a position that regardless of what you're saying, we're not entertaining it at this point. And he made the argument that nothing is before the commission. Okay? But this was a legal practitioner that was before you. She's an officer of the court. This is a person that is bringing your attention to something that she said she's got documentary evidence. I don't think she should have been dismissed at that point. And I don't see any sort of processes or irregularities that would have occasioned if she was allowed to tender that document as evidence at that point, because that was a crucial point. And she raised an objection. I don't think that objection should have been overruled at that point. I think it should have been sustained. And if the lawyer to the witness was saying that they felt that the presence of the lead counsel was prejudicial to their case, it should have been taken on board.
So in that regard, Kurang could actually use that specific encounter as selective questioning of witnesses, or probably accepting what they're saying.
But you see, this is the point that I don't think people are understanding. This was the chair of the commission overruling a witness. Why was nothing attributable to the chair? Come on, why? I mean, every logical person will ask that question. I support wholeheartedly, but why was she being picked up? What was wrong with the other commissioners? The commission functioned under their authority. The lead counsel was subjected to their authority. Listen to what the chair said. He said, you don't have to speak. And the counsel said no, and actually pleaded with the chair to allow her to speak. So my problem with Kurang, the only problem I have, and which I think we have already established, is that something deep-seated was going on between her and Amie Bensouda. Why listen, we saw things that were even more dangerous. Didn't one of the commissioners send a message to Aisha Fati calling her my darling, a witness? Kurang never took that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Let's be honest, man, and call a spade a spade.
No,
that's why people don't like
people don't like
my analysis, because I don't take sides. I don't take sides, and I can't take sides. What happened to that? That commissioner should have actually been dismissed. That amounted to a commissioner interfering with a witness that was before the commission, a witness on oath. What business does a commissioner have speaking, saying my darling?
Well, Kurang wrote several things within the commission.
I've never seen that was, Omar, I'm not going to let that slide. That was an issue that should have been brought to the fore. That commissioner should not have been allowed to continue to sit as a commissioner.
I agree with that. I agree. What I'm trying to say is Kurang professionally has brought a lot of queries to the commission. But of course, out of the professional work on social media, he has only been attacking Amie Bensouda, which I think at some point was unfair. So that part we agreed on. But again, you realize that it's the same Kurang that queried, or that actually kind of, rebutted everything the commission was trying to allege him. That was a direct confrontation to the commissioners. So there was a document moment that Kurang confronted, the commissioners in that rebuttal, which is quite an absolutely fantastic document.
But let's establish. Somebody made a comment.
Let me finish this.
Wait, P, can you pin that comment? Because I don't want it to escape me.
I don't see comments.
Oh, you don't see
on my part, because I try not to see comments that will be distracting. What exactly somebody saying? You want to get on with your comments, sir?
Oh no! Somebody said Melville, Amie was the lead counsel. She was investigated, and she was also responsible for the sales.
Responsible for the sales?
Yeah, it don't make no damn sense to me. I don't know what the person is trying to say. What sales? Absent, can you qualify what you're saying? What sales? So for me, that is my issue. I mean, you cannot absolve the commission and just pick on one person. It makes it look as if it's personal.
No, but it was personal. So the fact is, we've established that Kurang and Amie.
It makes it look personal, to be honest. I'm not holding brief for Amie Bensouda. I'm not supporting Amie Bensouda or any other person. I'm not supporting Kurang. I'm not going against Kurang. But the truth is, it made it look personal.
Partly, it's personal. We don't know the details of why it became so personal. But one thing I want to also establish is that Kurang, while executing his functions professionally, had also rebutted a lot from the commissioners. That means already he had also told the commissioners what he needed to tell them professionally about the activities within the commission. He equally, kind of written to the office of the president to tell them stop interfering. So Kurang, there is no part of the authorities within.
Did Kurang write to the office of the president to say no? I've never seen that. I've never heard of that. Did he write to the office of the president to tell them not to interfere?
When he wrote to the commission to read Amie's document bullet 10. No. Kurang actually wrote to the commission to say that it should not accept executive interference.
Yes, but that was to the commission, right? Not to the president.
But of course, when he wrote his petition about Amie, he wrote it to the office of the president, no?
When he wrote the petition, he addressed the petition to the office of the president.
Right.
But when he wrote questioning the executive interference, it was written to the chair of the commission.
Yes, but most of these documents are either copied to Batambedu or office of the president as well.
You know what? You know the person that messed the commission is Batambedu. Because Batambedu had a role to advise the president. Okay?
So what I do not understand, as Minister of Justice, you establish a commission, the president established a commission, and this commission went beyond its mandate, doing things that they are supposed not to do. Wasn't it his responsibility to advise the president to say, hello, look at these people, what they are doing, they are supposed not to be doing that? Which he kind of gave a blind eye to, but also went about even giving some of those, possible, money-making ventures to a girlfriend's company. And this company was established, the same year in which this commission was getting on. So all of the things that we've been saying is that even though we will say the commission did this and that wrong, the commission might think they are within their mandate. But why the commission thinks that, there is a justice minister who was supposed to actually tell them, no, this is not within your mandate. This is not what you are actually assigned to do. But he did not do that because he too has an interest, a vested interest in it. And through that vested interest is clearly visible to all of us that he actually gave contracts to companies that are supposed not to be, actually selling even a little, spoon that Yahya Jammeh owns. Again, what I do not understand from the commission is that Kurang said he submitted to them, including gold medals from the UTG. Do you want to tell me Yahya Jammeh stole gold medals from the UTG? That everything this guy owned, he stole, including gold medals from the UTG? Bro, we might not like the guy. We might think, he's a dictator or he's killed a lot of people, but we cannot say that Yahya Jammeh working as a military officer from 1984 to 1994 and becoming president from 1994 for 22 good years. Even the university established giving him a medal. You seize that medal and you say he stole it. So for me, in as much as this, loggerhead is going on between Kurang and Amie, the good thing about it is it informs the Gambians about what was happening in the commission, which were quite not right, that these folks kind of played with our money and they were being paid a hell lot of money from taxpayers' money. At the end of the day, what did they do? A terrible job. In as much as, I might not agree with Ismail Assise in one way or another, but to say the commission did a terrible job, I agree fully with that. But again, if the commission did a terrible job, the government himself commended that terrible job. So that also speaks to the fact that the government was not in any way controlling what was happening in the commission, or the government was complicit in the activities of the commission. But where would we draw the quoting on the government? We would
No,
say
but please don't talk about, if you
Batambedu.
talk about Dr. Ismail Assise, you're going to make me boil. Please, don't. Because I don't understand Dr. Ismail Assise, and I don't understand what he's trying to do. I'm just lost with that.
No,
because this is a man that came out and said, they've demanded the list, and we've given them the list. This list was published by the Ministry of Justice. And this man sat on Coffee Time and said that list is fake.
I think he was trying to say that it was.
No, he was not trying to say anything. He said the list was fake.
Did he say the list was fake?
That's what he said. He said that list is fake. And not only that, he went on to say that list. He also said, and just to show you that whatever he said to justify, he said that, oh, Peter, do you know the 9 volumes report never had nothing, no document that mentioned anything about sale? He said that. So where did that document came from? He said, it was just from people that were collating stuff. That's what he said.
No, but what I deduce from that is that the documents that he's referring to did not come from the commission, but the sales items that were done by the sales that was done by the Sheriff Division. This was a list from Sheriff Division, and probably
he never said Sheriff Division. He never said that.
No, when he said they're from the Ministry of Justice and not from the commission.
No, he said these were given to the Ministry of Justice by people that were around, people that were making lists, informal lists. He said, what he said clearly, that was the subject headline in all the newspapers, was that the Janet Commission never submitted anything with regards to do the sales.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
It's sales done by the Janet Commission.
Yes.
We did not still see that in the
so now
domain.
I'm saying,
but we saw the list from the Sheriff Division.
I am saying, if you are saying that nothing happened, but then all of a sudden the Justice Ministry releases a list, you basically call that list not authentic. Because what you want to see is a list that's part of the 9 volumes. Now, what people are asking is, this volume, or this 9 volume that was submitted, makes reference to annexes, which documented the sale, documented the valuation reports, but these things have all gone missing. But then it takes you back. It takes you back to a point where the Justice Minister appeared before the National Assembly and said that we have the list, but we're not going to publish the list. And the reason why we're not going to publish the list is because it borders on people's private matters, the privacy of these buyers. So now, hang on, Omar. I want to drum this point home. So now, all of a sudden, we're being told that the volume that was presented was never, there was nothing with regard sale that was attached. So what list was the Justice Minister referring to that was protecting the buyers?
Okay, let me give you my understanding of it. What I understood from Ismaila is that the list that the government published is not part of the 9 volumes, because the 9 volumes in a way would only constitute a list from the sales that were done by the commission. Now, the sales that was done by the Sheriff Division probably is what was submitted to the Justice Ministry.
That's not what he said.
No, but I'm telling you what I understood from it.
No.
He might not say it, directly that way, but what he was trying to say, in my understanding, is that because he's trying to inject politics into it, and then
no, Omar, you missed that one. That's not what he said. What he said was that the Janet Commission never submitted anything with regards to their sale. But what he did say is, what they have, remember there's an appointed receiver. And what they're claiming is that all the sales that the receiver has done, they have documentation to showcase that. Now, they also have documentation to showcase what the sheriff had done because they requested these documents from the sheriff.
Yes.
So what he was referencing is that the receiver, there is no issue with regards what the receiver has sold because the receiver has got receipts.
Yes.
We all know Alpha Capital is still there.
Yes.
But what he was saying is the Janet Commission, even the sale that Kurang did, he's saying that nothing was reported. That's what he said clearly.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying Usmaila talked about the list they got is from either the receiver and the Sirif division, but not the sales that the commission did. So
but I am saying the point I am trying to make. I know you're holding brief for Dr. Sisi right now, but the point I am trying to make, I'm drawing a correlation between the pronouncements of Dr. Sisi and the pronouncements of Dawda Jallow, the Attorney General, before Parliament. So and I'm saying these are cabinet colleagues.
Did the Justice Minister say that they got the list from the commission?
Listen, these are cabinet colleagues. The Justice Minister said before Parliament that he cannot produce the list because it will breach on the privacy of the buyers.
Which list? Because there are several lists.
No. That's inconsequential. What was posed before him in Parliament was not to a particular list. Yeah. Parliament wanted a holistic account of the asset disposal of Jam. Now, you can decide to interpret that to mean that he was referencing a particular list. What was tabled before the hallowed chambers of the National Assembly was that the assembly members were requesting a list that documents and gives a holistic picture of the entire sale. Now, the Justice Minister, as far as I am concerned, never said to Parliament that we have the receivers list, we do not have the Janet Commission list, but we cannot publish the receivers list because it borders down on privacy. Yeah. That's not what he said.
No, he gave
what
a
he said.
Answer.
What he said was we cannot publish the list because it would invade privacy. And now what we are having is another minister saying we never had that particular list.
But the president,
we don't know what was sold.
The president also said the same.
So
he did not see the list of sales.
So that is what I am saying. This is the discrepancies I am pointing out within the government itself.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm not really saying Ismaila as in a person might be the one who is not telling the truth, but generally in government there is an inconsistency in terms of how information is flowing in government, because the president told us that the list of items that were sold he never saw. But of course, Ismaila told us that they actually, the list they released are lists from the Sirif division and from the receiver.
But that statement in itself is redundant because a white paper was issued. How can you issue a white paper on a report, an incomplete report? Because as far as I am concerned, if you are given a report and that report is missing very important documents that is actually referenced in that report, because the volume would refer you to certain annexes, but it's missing, but then you issue a white paper to celebrate the brilliance of the Janet Commission.
That is why I told you in our first discussion that I have a problem with the president's statement in Mandinka, because he explicitly said that, some of the items were missing and he knew that someday they will appear. And I asked, are they going to appear from heaven? So explicitly, government knew that some things were missing and they never did anything about it. The president told us that he did not receive the list. Ismaila told us that the list they received are actually from, the Sirif division and the receiver. Now we are asking the commission, where is the commission's list? Now, if you look at the volumes, they said volume 4 is missing. Now, from whom is the volume 4 missing? Is it from Batambedi or from the commission? This is something that we deserve.
Before Ismaila said that list let's deal with things in sequence.
Okay.
Before Ismaila went on Coffee Time to mention about that list, didn't Ismaila also go on Coffee Time to say they wanted the list and we've given them the list?
Yes.
It was subsequently that Ismaila went back on Coffee Time when people raised issues with the list to say that that list was incomplete and that list was not even from the Janneh Commission.
Yeah, but people also raised the same question that the list was not, it did not include the sales done by Kurang and the Janneh Commission itself.
So
But
that's,
of course, I agree with Ismaila's inconsistency, and I'm not holding brief for
no,
Ismaila.
but I'm just saying,
I have told in several posts that Ismaila, in a way, Ismaila told us that the office of the president stopped some of the sales of the limousines here and there. That already he thought he was actually, kind of holding brief for the government, but more or less, digging a bigger hole for the government, because that is directly telling us that government was interfering in the sales. Because if you tell us that government stopped, or office of the president stopped them from selling the limousines because of price issues, that means government was interfering. And then Amie Bensouda's document proved that what Ismaila was saying was true, that indeed government interfered in the sales of the assets, which the president said he had no hand in it, and then they did not interfere. So here you can see that there is inconsistency between the president and, of course, his ministers. Again, Dawda went to parliament and told them that, yeah, we have the list, we are not going to release it because of people's privacy here and there. But Ismaila again came and told us that the list is incomplete because those purchases that were done from the commission never came to the government. But it's the same government that gave us the white paper. So that's what we're trying to put across here. Government in this, in a way or another, is involved in a lot of things that are quite unclear. So government is complicit in everything that has to do with this. And the president by extension. That is why in the first instance, when the president made that speech, the English speech, I agree with you, that was quite done well. But when it comes to the Mandinka version, where he mentioned that some of the, the list never got to him. He never saw, how much they were sold for, to whom they were sold, because that list never came to him. But that list never came to the president, but it was the president's Minister of Justice that actually gave a white paper. And the president knew that part of the list was missing, and he said he knew someday the list would appear. But where will the list appear from? From heaven? Or it had to take a protest, or it has to take an investigative, journalist to actually go about investigating what was happening for these things to come out. Otherwise, nothing like this would ever come out. So there was where I fault the president, that the president could have done better. And of course, evidently, I wouldn't say Batambedo could have done better. Batambedo deliberately defrauded the country. He did it deliberately. That person was not intending. We cannot even say he could have done better. Maybe he had made mistakes, or probably out of government. He had intention to defraud the country, and he did exactly what he wanted. And I think that dude definitely need to be called and then probably prosecuted for wrongdoings he did in government. But of course, how can you prosecute Batambedo when government, the president actually, through his powers, gave a white paper that you gave a white paper about a document that you do not even have clarity on. So this is my point. Now, it actually brings us to the point that now that it's evidently clear, Amie Bensouda's document told us that government was complicit in a way that we understood. Again, Ismaila Cisse mentioned that government stopped the sale of some of the vehicles. That also told us that government interfered in the sales too. Again, he told us that, of course, the list from the commission...
No, hang on. Ismaila Cisse's interference was not with the commission, was with the receiver.
Exactly. So that's what I'm telling you.
So these are two levels of interference, right?
Exactly. That's
interfering with the commission,
and also
interfering with the receiver that was appointed by the court.
Thank you.
Oh well, I'm assuming so.
You get it now? So government was interfering at every level. They interfered with the commission itself, and they also interfered with the receiver. And now they turn around and tell us that the list we got is from the receiver and the how the city division, but we never got the list from the Janneh Commission. But it was the commission that they actually issued a white paper on and commended them for.
For me, I do not personally believe that the commission would submit a 9-volume report without these lists. I don't believe that.
But the fact of the matter is that it doesn't make any sense for the commission to say attach is annex this and this, and the annexes have numbers, and all of a sudden you say that there were no annexes to it. Who will fabricate annexes in their head and just put them on?
But like I said, the reason why that is being said is because there is no commission.
So that means that there were annexes that probably government officials or probably Batambedo and his...
So what's going to happen now? Are these annexes going to come out, or they're never going to see the light of day?
the Gambians need to come out and say, you know what, give us the list from the Janneh Commission, and of course that should comprise of all these annexes that are still missing, and the volume 4 of the 9 volumes that is still missing. So this is a very important volume that needs to come out. We got the list from all others, but the list from the Janneh Commission we did not get. But even the list that we got from others is incomplete. I agree with Ismaila that they are incomplete because we did not have the sales of the goats, the sheep, the other items. We still did not have them. Of course, somebody told me that the pigs escaped and they become bush pigs. But let's say the goats and the the sheep that were at Farato farm, we never actually got a list of those. And then also, Kurang, what the items that Kurang submitted to these people, including those gold guns and gold whatever medals here and there. Where are all those medals? So the list is still not complete. I agree with Ismaila in that part, but what I want to understand is what I want you to understand is that Ismaila is not doing that because he wants to actually put government in a good light. He wants to inject partisan politics into it. Why did I say so? It was Ismaila without any confirmation, did not know the full name of that guy they called Manding Mansa. He accused the man of being the one setting the prices and selling the cows in Kanilai. But imagine a state minister.
Meanwhile, he omitted the actual person who's a staffer of the Ministry of Justice, Jallo, that actually was the valuer.
But that's what I'm telling you. The guy was doing that, with political intent, because what does he want to achieve from that? Now, this person, Ismaila, never saw his appointment letter as, a seller. He never saw his, giving any, let's say, instructions whatsoever to actually be there to sell anything. He did not see any document that says that this particular person was appointed to do this. He did not even know the guy's full name. He only relied on hearsay. Oh, I am aware, or we are told that this person was even there and setting the prices, and he is a member of the UDP. What does he want to achieve there?
But okay, you saw that problem. Let me show you let me just state mine. You are a state minister, the Minister of Information. UDP is not in government, and the country is asking you to give an account of sales of disposals of Jammeh's assets, and you sit there and say, "I go and ask UDP." That's so cheap. That's so low, man. Who does that in today's world, in 2025?
That tells you how much of a
government spokesperson, the Minister of Information, speaking on behalf of the government. You cannot put up a solid rebuttal on such. You cannot offer clarity to the Gambian. You are referring them to the UDP. Is UDP in government?
And you also know why he said
the
commission did it.
Government?
Do you also know why he was trying to tell us that the commission did a terrible job and trying to focus all the attention on the commission? Because Amie Bensouda is in the commission and the son wants to be president, and he now wants to put all the blame on the commission and Amie Bensouda. That's the intent, because he's telling us the commission did a terrible job. We did not have their list. All the lists we have, we gathered from other places. Not knowing that trying to paint other people red, he's already painting the government too dark. So all of these things are now just partisan politics that the Minister of Information is trying to inject into this whole thing. Instead of being truthful to Gambians and telling them what exactly Gambians need to hear, they're trying to make it look like it's a partisan and venture where they got to shift blames onto a political party that is not in government, even though they would have been in government at the time. But then if there is something credible that government need to put across, they need to communicate to the Gambians, because they are the ones accountable to the Gambians. But you cannot turn around and say, go and ask this particular person, or probably why was this person there, or is a member of this political party. That is not what the common Gambian like me and you is interested in. We are not interested in the partisan politics he's trying to play out here, or mentioning names who never had any, let's say, authority to go about doing whatever he alleged that they did. That guy could actually sue Ismaila Ceesay, and then he will not have any evidence to prove his case. But again, why does he feel that everything that the commission did was bad? Now, if everything the commission did was bad and they did a terrible job, where was the government of the Gambia that gave this commission this responsibility to execute such a function, that came out with a white paper commending the job that he now describes as terrible? So you see, when you're trying to play politics on people, you basically need to understand all of it holistically. Because when people tell me, oh, you're a political scientist who do not understand politics, then I question where you actually understand your political science. Because if you tell us that, oh, these people did a terrible job, but the government you serve today commended that terrible job, who is worse?
And not only that, the government took a position and endorsed Batambedu. What does that mean?
Exactly.
It means the government is saying that Batambedu has such a sterling performance while serving as Minister of Justice in such a way that the government is so happy with him and they're actually endorsing him and putting him forward.
And Gambians gave him Man of the Year, not knowing that this is the terrible, disgusting guy of the year. You know, I don't agree with Sabali recently because of, you know, folks and their politics here and there. But a lot of things he had said about Batambedu are very right. That guy from the beginning was not doing anything right for the people. He was not. At some point, I see Batambedu more as a, you know, trying to deceive the public with clear intention of defrauding the country. Because from the beginning of it, somebody whom we would say is this much of a legal, you know, expert would still accept the commission to do things they have no business doing.
He never won a single case in our courts once he was Justice Minister.
Of course, I mean,
I don't think I know of any.
I mean, Asao is a classical example of teaching that man basic things in law because he ought to know. Even I ought to know some of those.
Oh,
things.
by the way, I got Amina's judgment.
Oh, you got the judgment.
I got the judgment today.
It will be good to actually read part of that so people understand on what basis.
I got the judgment today.
What are you doing back there? You just want too much attention, little baby. My goodness. So Amina it should be a very good subject of discussion when it comes to our laws because
no, we're going to look at this. We're going to look at this properly. We're going to look at this properly. Amina's judgment.
What do you want to do?
Oh, there's one part that I found very interesting. That all the livestock held by or in the possession or control of the respondent, which is Jame, his servants, agents, associates, and family members, or otherwise whoever be and are hereby seized pursuant to this order and are to be kept under the custody and control of the Gambia Livestock Marketing Agency pending the conclusion of the investigations initiated by the Attorney General.
So that means that
the livestock
went against this judgment.
They went against it.
Allahu Akbar.
They went against it. I'm reading the judgment. It's a solid judgment.
You told
listen, that all the wildlife and other animals held by or in the possession or control of the respondent, his servants, agents, associates, and family members, or otherwise, however, be and are hereby seized pursuant to this order and are to be kept under the custody and control of the Gambia Wildlife Services pending the conclusion of the investigation. She dealt with everything. Everything.
Explicitly, this woman did not give a judgment.
So the order of Amina Saho was not only flouted by the Justice Minister, it was also flouted by the Janet Commission.
Yeah. How do you people call it? Solitary confinement.
Listen, there's another part I want to read. That Augustus Prom, a firm of certified chartered accountants registered in the Gambia, be and are hereby appointed receiver, and consequently the custody and control is hereby granted to them of all the companies listed in the annexure Mark 3 attached to this order for the proper administration thereof, pending the conclusion of the investigation.
So that means before the investigation could ever end, everything should have been under Augustus Prom. So why did the commission start going about selling things that they had no money, even not even to say mandate, but actually they were restricted by the court?
Yep.
So mbir mi du affaire Kurang ak Amie Bensouda. These people played us so bad, and Batambedu was masterminding all this. This is a person who claims to be. But and then people would try to tell us that, oh, it's partisan politics. I think Barrow's government definitely deserve a red card in every aspect of politics, because these folks kind of played with us so bad. But anyway, we've said enough. I think the good thing would be to have, explicitly a discussion on Amina's judgment, and then have a look at it and then connect it to what exactly the commission did contrarily, and what could have been done better, and why she actually had to petition, Jada to the Chief Justice, and what exactly happened in that petition, and what exactly the Chief Justice did. Because those informations we basically need to understand to know, what Jada's involvement was like, if that was out of malice or deliberate, and as well why the Chief Justice decided to give that case to JJ, if actually he was equally in a way or another complicit in this whole matter. Because it looks like the lady was not happy during her confinement leave or whatever, and decided to even send them a petition that was looked into by the Chief Justice. But it was the Chief Justice who actually gave JT, as a vacation, judge, to actually preside over this matter. Now, did JT, in presiding over this matter, kind of give a general judgment that everything that Amina had, said was not going to stand no more, and everything he had said was actually replacing what Amina had given? Is that the case?
Listen, but I'm trying to look at something quite interesting here. This is the ruling that Amina gave, where she rejected the application of Batambedu to unfreeze the assets, right? But this is what she says in her ruling, her opening paragraph. This ruling is that, okay, I can't see properly, but it says, upon an application ex parte filed on the 11th day of July, 2018, which was converted to one on notice by order of court rendered on Tuesday, the 17th day of July, 2018. The applicant praised the following orders: an order varying the freezing order made by the Honorable Court on the 22nd day of May, 2017. I'm trying to build something here. So when the order to freeze Jammeh's assets was done? In May 2017. When did the Janet Commission commence? When did it start?
I don't even remember no more.
It was in 2017, 100%.
And you realize,
and I think it was in October or November 2017, because that was why they were arguing about the age of the age of the chairperson, because I think he was 74 at that time.
Okay.
Maybe one of the people in the audience can tell you when the Janet Commission.
The few things we need to establish in the next discussion.
No, this is quite interesting. I have to look into this. How did the Janet Commission make an order to dispose of Jammeh's assets whilst there was a high court, order that froze all his assets?
So when was JT's judgment? And when did the commission start selling? All these dates actually would matter a lot, because again, we also need to look
obviously Jaita's judgment, well, I need to look at Jaita's judgment, but Jaita's judgment, I think, was after the sale, after the sale, because Jaita's judgment was done because of the land issue.
Exactly. And Amina's judgment initially, my notion was that she gave a judgment only about the lands, but now I understand that she even made a judgment on the livestock.
Amina's judgment was so thorough. Livestock, wildlife, bank accounts, businesses. Boy, it was brilliant, brilliant judgment.
So you got lawyers who played our country this bad. So the good thing would be, in the next whatever, it's important that, can we also get like the interim orders of the commission, or that would never come to light?
We can find it.
So it's important important to get the dates and the interim orders of the commission, and of course, when Alpha Capital was registered, when Alpha Capital was contracted, when they started selling the assets.
And you know what's interesting? The application was made under the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorist Financial Act, which is a criminal. So it was criminalized.
Right.
So the justification for the freezing of Jammeh's assets was that a criminal investigation was being done on Jammeh.
Wow.
You get me? But under the Anti-Money Laundering Act.
Was there a criminal investigation on Jammeh?
If even there was, well, I think that was just the basis. Because
was the commission? Would you call the commission a criminal investigation?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
So
the commission is a fact-finding mission.
So that means there was no criminal investigation on Jammeh.
And even if there was a criminal investigation, was it concluded? Because remember, when they came back to Amina, Amina asked, "You came to me initially," because that is how the law operates. When you asked for these assets to be frozen, you said to me you were launching a criminal investigation. Now, I'm expecting that if you're coming back to me to tell me to unfreeze, you would show me and demonstrate that you have investigated and what is the outcome of your investigation.
Right.
They didn't do that.
First, they didn't establish any criminal investigation against Jammeh. It was just a fact-finding mission. Of course, they went to court for a different purpose, and of course, that is not what they did. Again, you went back to the same court.
They went to court before the Jammeh Commission was established.
To freeze.
So listen, this is May 2017.
Yeah, I think we also need to connect all these dates.
They came into power. The coalition government came into existence in February or January 2017.
Yeah.
That guy was appointed and he ran to court and froze everything.
Yeah, because he was after the assets from the beginning. That guy came with an intent to defraud the country from the beginning. That's just it. His mind and his soul was all on Jammeh's assets, and all he cared about was, let me come to power and quickly go and freeze them, on the pretext that, of course, criminal investigation, where no criminal investigation will
and when they appeared before what's his name? When they appeared before thingy,
Asaho?
No, before Justice Jaite. When they appeared before Jaite, the case was made that the lease land, all the leases have already been cancelled by the Ministry of Lands because it was deemed to have been obtained fraudulently.
But how did the Ministry of Lands establish that?
No, I don't even believe the Ministry of Lands would do that suo motu on their own accord without an instruction from the Justice Minister.
That is the indirect question I'm trying to ask. How did they get to that? Probably
but
it was
tells you the mindset of these people.
That this guy was only after selling.
And I'm sure that was done. Listen. It was done after Amina rejected their application.
Yeah.
Omar, we have to look at Amina's ruling.
We got to come back here. What we need to do is,
and I need to get Justice Jaite's ruling as well.
To get Justice Jaite's ruling, we need to get the date on not just these rulings, but also look at how they actually when Alpha Capital was registered, when they actually got the job they got from the commission.
Alpha Capital was registered in 2017.
But when, to be specific, that is also important. That's an important date.
For me, when, no matter, I don't care when in 2017. I mean, you got registered in 2017 and they give you $100 million contract, $100 million.
That also tells a lot about Batambedo and everything he had to do with our country. But we've spent enough time here.
Yes, I gotta go now.
And then what we got to do is
I still see there's loads of people are watching. I was just checking now and there's like over 6,000 views, man.
Let's see
quite
all
interesting.
These, let's get all these documents and probably have a discussion around them, because that will make a lot of sense. How we can connect some of these things that happen and why they happen and how they happen. It will really be important. Okay, say bye, Khadija, because it's okay. I know you need some time too.
But, by the way, I think I've been invited on the on iAfrica TV. They're having a show tomorrow morning at 9:30 Gambian time, I think.
Right.
So I've been Yeah, I've been invited on that show. I don't know the name of the show.
I started listening to the TikTok show, but at some point I had to go. But it was quite interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of conversations
Yes.
happening. It's
So
a lot to be talked
I'll
about.
be on iAfrica tomorrow morning. I'll join
Hopefully,
them. I think
hopefully
it's
I'll
with
see you
Dudu
there.
Ja and the rest of the guys. But I'll be there tomorrow. You can watch if you're up early,
Of
or if
course,
not, you can watch
of
the
course.
replay.
Um,
But we'll just go over these things and just look at it anyways.
I
But
shall
hey,
be
Omar, it's a pleasure, man. It was good.
always great to have this conversation. And
Yeah,
hopefully we
Sunyureo.
get
They
more
said it's called
discussion.
Sunyureo.
Oh, Senor, okay.
Yeah. On iAfrica TV.
Okay, no, Khadija, I heard you. All right, goodbye, bye bye.
But it's quite interesting, and I think really, I think Kurang must be commended. It's so funny because sometimes when you do analysis and people would think, oh you're going against him.
No,
No, I'm just looking at.
matters of the law, irrespective of
Yeah,
whatever, the law is the
I
law.
don't care who the person is.
Kurang did a lot of great things,
Yeah,
but also because this is not a lawyer, some of the things he should have been a little bit more careful about
yeah.
when it comes to law and when you come to
And
the courtroom, it's different from what is outside.
I personally think they won't agree with me. I'm sure they'll tell me, "Oh, don't mind that idiot." But they shouldn't. I firmly believe that they should not have accepted the utterances of Kurang to say that it was directed at the commission and not Amie Bensouda, because that is, for me, that is problematic, because his pronouncements were not directed at the commission. Most of them
But
were.
say accepting or not accepting, already those are in the public domain, and of course they've got copies of it. Amie Bensouda's lawyers have got
I'm
copies of
sure
it.
they must have got copies of all
They
of
got
them.
no, they
Yeah.
got copies of it, and even in their document they reference some of them, and then
Oh,
actually
they did.
they
I gotta
highlighted
look
them. So them
at that
accepting
document
or
again.
why they said okay, these particular statements were made about the commission is because Amie Bensouda's document explicitly mentioned some of them line by line.
Line by line.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
So
so it's gonna be an interesting one. It's gonna be an interesting one. Yeah.
I hope that I'm seeing it more like
You see,
to
the
be
thing
like
is, you see, I don't know if you read my letter to Amie Bensouda. I would my objective, what I would love to see is for this matter not to go to court. I don't want it to seem as if like I'm untouchable. I'm not gonna answer. I'm not gonna do anything. On the other hand, I don't support some of the pronouncements of Kurang. I don't. If I say it, I'll be lying. I'm not gonna just because I want to please the public gallery and say I support. No, I won't.
Any reasonable person will comment Kurang for a lot of efforts he did.
Yeah.
But equally would say that some of the things he on social media were not necessary.
No, they were not
they
necessary.
Way,
And that was not only
it
was not, I don't believe the objective was just to draw attention to the Janet Commission. That was to disparage Amie Bensouda or to paint her in bad light. That's my opinion.
Maybe too Kurang felt in a way or another that Amie Bensouda contributed to his removal from the commission.
I absolutely believe that's what it is.
All of these things
no, but listen, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Amie Bensouda didn't contribute. Amie Bensouda got Kurang fired. Amie Bensouda gave them an ultimatum. It's either Kurang or me.
So that's the point.
And the Janet commissioners sided with Amie Bensouda.
Right.
So really, it's not speculative.
Again, Kurang would say that probably all the queries they were bringing to me was probably engineered by Amie Bensouda, because when she said it's either Kurang or I, all the commissioners went on her side, and it was the same commissioners that were trying to query me all the way to asking me about $200.
So there you go. That's a justifiable. That's a justifiable reason.
Was not attacking the commissioners. He's only attacking this person because probably he thinks that the epicenter of all his problem with the commission, that is where it lies.
Well. So this is what is going to be determined in the court of law if that suit gets to court. And now I am thinking it's going to get to court.
A good thing is that Gambians have heard a lot of information from both Kurang and Amie Bensouda that government interfered. Of course, there was animosity in the commission. There were things the commission did that they shouldn't have done. We've established all those facts. If they get to court, let's see what comes out of it. But I hope they do not, because at the end of the day, ñun ñep Gambian la. Ñu lu xew ci commission bi du lu baax. Those people should apologize to us for the wrongs they've done. I'm not going to call anybody for, doing extremely bad, except for Batambedu. But the rest of the folks probably, they what they did was wrong. It's wrong, and they owe us that apology. Going to court to say what? Roland, you def Jadwood, what you people did to Gambians, if all of us say we are going to take all of you to court for all that you did, maybe we don't even have the powers to do so, because probably the laws are written in that way that we cannot even question the commissioners. But what you did to Gambians is so fraudulent, and you people got to apologize to the Gambians if we are honest enough. Because imagine all these old people who have paid hell lot of money to actually support this country in its, transition. All of a sudden, they became exceptional looters at an industrial scale. That is how we could categorize them, giving themselves powers that they do not even have. So they owe us that apology. Then, kind of dragging each other to say you are defaming me, we are going to court here and there. Gambians deserve to know the truth, and of course the whole truth. And as well, you people, got to apologize to Gambians for the wrongs that you have done. But then taking each other to court does not change anything about our mentalities and our mindsets about what the commission was all about. So it's important that the commissioners and the people who work within the commission come out and take responsibility for their actions, either directly or indirectly. But all of them, in a way or another, definitely contributed to the failure of the commission. Both the councils and as well as the commissioners, including even the secretariat in one way or another, because they went against what their mandate was. Whoever engineered that cannot actually excuse other people. All of them inclusive have done Gambians wrong, and they got to apologize for it. Anyway, we hold it at that, and hopefully we will have another conversation when we get all these documents right.
Say bye-bye.
And then you'll hear people say, oh, you're supporting Jammeh, oh, you're supporting UDP, you're supporting NPP. Man, nan lazy fale. Probably.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye, uncle.
Paid some of our schools. Aside that, we don't even
Say bye-bye, uncle.
Yo, goodbye.
Say bye-bye,
Come back here.
Take care, bros. Goodbye, and thanks everyone for joining us. Yeah, take care.